Welcome to today's Makino product introduction. My name is John Einberger. I'm the product line manager for horizontal machining centers here at Makino, coming to you live today from our headquarters for North and South America in Mason, Ohio. Let me start with a little bit of housekeeping. During today's presentation, you're going to see on your screen a chat function. That's the way that you can get questions into us that we can address at the end of the formal presentation. Basically no questions off limits. Go ahead and put your question in using that chat function. We have people here in the room that are going to be monitoring that and will feed me the questions again at the end of the presentation. We'll address those. So let me start off with a question. Do you machine or do you want to machine parts such as these? Small medical components, aerospace components, particularly again on the compact side, or small die-cast or metal injection parts? If so, the newest horizontal machining center in our lineup that I'm going to introduce today is something that may be of great interest to you. With no further ado, the version B of our N2-5XA horizontal machining center. So common part traits, already kind of alluded to it a little bit. Compact size, small parts. Multiple faces to machine, so not just something simple where you're presenting one face to the spindle and that's all you need to do, but machining on multiple faces, and quite possibly contour machining as part of the requirement. With that, the N2-5XA is a really good fit for this type of a manufacturing profile. So the machine in and of itself, very compact design, very tightly fit to the size of components that we're going to be manufacturing in this new platform. Strokes roughly 300 millimeters by 300 millimeters by 230 for the linear axes. And since it's a 5-axis machine, an A-axis with 160 degrees of total range of motion and an unlimited 360 degree in the B-axis. So by the 5XA denominator in the name, that notes that it is a true contouring style 5-axis machine in the Makino lineup. So let's start out with the basics. Let's look at the base of the machine that you see over here behind me. It's a stacked axis design machine. By that I mean that the X-axis travels on the top of the base casting. The Y-axis moves up and down basically throughout that top to bottom range of the casting itself. And the Z-axis is under the spindle of the machine. So your workpiece from the standpoint of the linear axis movements of the machine is static. True 3-point support, very similar to the very popular Makino NX series of horizontal machining centers. True 3-point support, true 3-point leveling. No other touch points between the machine tool and the floor that have any effect on the alignment of the machine tool or the leveling of the machine. From a customer's perspective, that means easy installation. Our service engineer who's in doing the installation of the machine does not need to spend a lot of time getting the geometry of the machine tool of component to component in the machine tool aligned by multiple points of level. Basically, it's to set the machine, level it, move forward with the installation. Very rigid base. The base casting basically sets that alignment and keeps that alignment of all the different components that are part of that overall assembly. So no re-leveling maintenance is required from an ongoing perspective. Basically, again, set the machine, start using it. You don't have to re-level the machine at periodic intervals down the road. Being a 5-axis machine, let's talk a little bit about the rotary axis. We use a trunnion style on the N2-5XA. So 160 degrees of motion on the A-axis, ranging from negative 120 degrees to positive 40 degrees with a max rotation rate of 30 RPM. That allows you to not only do the upper portion of a workpiece, but also do undercuts. The B-axis, a full 360 degrees of motion, unlimited, 150 RPM is the maximum rate on that rotary axis. So from a workpiece compatibility standpoint, kind of a spherical looking workpiece that you can put on with the 200 millimeter table being here, and then the workpiece itself 300 millimeters diameter up to 270 millimeters tall with the spherical radius. The spindle that's available on the N2-5XA, the standard, is a 20,000 RPM spindle. Very low inertia. That translates to very high acceleration, deceleration. 0 to 20,000 RPM in 0.8 of a second. So when you get that tool in the spindle, you spool that spindle up, start going to work, it gets up to that work speed very, very quickly. The interface, HSK A40. So high rigidity, high bending moment, again, the ability to sustain high metal removal given the small workpiece size, given the compact footprint of the machine. From a power perspective in kilowatts, 3.7 kilowatts continuous, 7.5 kilowatts maximum. Power curve is down here. Similarly, from a torque perspective, 14.9 Newton meters max, 8 Newton meters continuous. Again, displayed down here. The compact profile of the spindle itself allows you to get nice up and close to the workpiece, keep the tool length short, keep the tool rigidity high, maximize the metal removal, and more importantly, probably, maximize the tool life of the perishable tooling that you're using, lower that overall manufacturing expense. Through spindle coolant on the version B machine, the brand new machine, is standard. 320 PSI is what we offer, and again, standard on the machine. The tool magazine, 36 tools is what we have brought to market on this machine. It's the standard tool capacity, and at this point in time, it is the only available tool capacity, but relative to the precursor machine, the version A, quite a bit bigger than what we had offered in the past. It's an armless style design. We'll run a little video here that shows you from the perspective of a camera inside the tool magazine what the motion looks like, how the spindle puts a tool away, how the magazine indexes, how the spindle picks it up. Just notice that the movements of the spindle, I've run these at a very slow speed just to be able to show this in better detail what's going on. So here's the video. As you can see, that spindle comes up, it puts the tool away, the magazine indexes, the spindle picks up the next tool, goes right back down into the work zone, the shutter closes. So there is an active shutter in between the magazine that you're looking at right now and the machining area. That shutter opens and closes to facilitate the tool change. But when you get back into machining, keeps the chips and the coolant out of that tooling area. Tool to tool change time is 2.5 seconds, chip to chip 3.9. And the other thing I want to point out, standard in air blow. You see that the tapers of the tool in the magazine are exposed. We use a shutter to keep that area clean. But as an extra measure of protection, we do employ a standard air blow system over those tapers just to ensure that no debris collects on it prior to that tool change or after. From a tool capacity standpoint, 2 kilograms is the limit. Pretty generous for a machine of this size and the tooling that would be used from the standpoint of the small parts manufacturing. Maximum tool diameter 50 millimeters, maximum tool length 180 millimeters, and as I pointed out before, the interface is HSK A40. The tools on the version B machine, the new machine that we're bringing to market, loaded on the side of the machine that's opposite of the control through what we call a tool loading station. A little bit better view with the door open, looking into the TLS. That's going to look really familiar. That's kind of the same shot that I showed you before when I was illustrating the tool change itself. Standard on the machine, adjacent to that tool load station door, an HMI screen where you can input the tool data that goes directly from that HMI into the tool data screen that's part of the machine's Pro 6 control. So again, very handy to do over on that opposite side of the machine from the control. No need to run back and forth from the tool load station to the control as you're loading tooling. You can do it all from one side of the machine very efficiently. Movements of the machine are very quick. Going to run a short video here for you in a moment that just shows initial positioning of the workpiece and then the machine going into a drilling cycle, but very quick movement of the machine, very high acceleration. So there, as you can see, very, very fast movement of that machine. Gets that tool into the spindle, gets it immediately into the cut, starts making chips, starts generating revenue for you. A very open design on the machine. We know that the machine has the possibility to create a level of chips that we need to manage from the standpoint of getting them out of the machine. Just from a general flow standpoint, the chips are going to go from the workpiece down into the central trough. The chip conveyor for the machine extends up underneath this area. As you can see down into the picture, the chip conveyor extending into the machining area pulls those chips back to a rear-mounted lift-up chip conveyor. So no obstructions between the workpiece side and that chip collection area, again, inside of the machining chamber of the N2-5XA. As I noted, the center trough conveyor is standard on the machine. From a coolant filtration standpoint, very similar to what you might already know in our NX series, we use two filtration systems as standard. The first being the drum filter, continuous backwash style. So that's going to turn dirty coolant into clean coolant. That clean coolant then is going to be used to service systems on the machine, such as the spindle nozzle coolant, the optional overhead shower coolant, things of that nature. Beyond that, we take the clean coolant through a cyclonic filtration system, standard on the machine, and turn it into super clean coolant. That is used to feed the through spindle coolant circuit on the N2-5XA. One of the things that we know from over 15 years of using cyclonic filtration, it's very important to use consistent pressure, consistent flow through the cyclonic filter in order for it to be effective. So from that perspective, we use a dedicated pump that feeds that cyclonic. It provides that constant flow and pressure that makes the cyclonic effective relative to other designs that may be on the market that may feature a cyclonic, but using a multi-purpose pump that's constantly changing that flow and pressure. We want to keep that constant. That's what we do with the N2-5XA. So options on the machine, some of the things that we're bringing to market. In the coolant realm, coolant temperature controller will be an option on the machine. If you have workpieces that are highly subject to thermal change, the workpiece itself, don't think about the machine tool, but think about the workpiece, coolant temperature control is a popular option to attenuate that. Overhead shower coolant is an option on this machine. Generally speaking, given the compact footprint of the machine, it may really only be in the extreme chip production areas where that overhead shower coolant is needed. We elected to make that an option on the N2-5XA. And the coolant wash gun on the front of the machine, also an option on the platform. Moving on to floor space, I mentioned up front this is a very compact machine. To kind of put it into perspective, with everything on the machine that you see here as a standard, chip conveyor, coolant tank, the machine tool proper, 54 square feet total. So from a perspective standpoint, that's 75% of a very small car, the Mazda Miata. Again, just kind of frame that a little bit for you. So that is inclusive of the chip conveyor and the coolant tank. And looking at machine density, what does that mean from the standpoint of number of spindles that you can possibly fit on your floor? If we use as a benchmark the very popular 400 millimeter pallet changing style horizontal machining center, in the area from a linear layout perspective where you can fit 5 of those machines, you can fit 10 of the N2-5XAs, basically doubling the number of spindles. So think about that floor space efficiency from the standpoint of small parts manufacturing, the ability to get a lot of those platforms in that same area. The control on the machine, the Makino Pro 6. This is a FANUC 31i based control. Very user-friendly, very simple to navigate through the screens. The buttons that you see on the left-hand side of the screen basically workflow all the way through from setup to tool data to program management to program execution to the results summary at the bottom. Because it's a 5-axis machine, because we know that a lot of customers that buy this machine will be doing precision contour machining, we elected to make our super geometric intelligence standard on the N2-5XA platform. So advanced motion control, faster cycle time, better surface finish is the result. In addition to that, collision safeguard on the machine is a standard. That's going to protect the machine from a baseline standpoint. the base structure of the machine, but you can also import your work holding models, your workpiece models. The more detail that you give it from the standpoint of the data that you upload into that collision safeguard computer, the higher level of protection that machine will have from the standpoint of any tool in the spindle bumping anything that's in that overall machining area. Some of the automation options that we're going to offer on the machine, again, we know that this machine will likely be popular from the standpoint of integration with robotics. Fixture hydraulics. We have standard on the machine the circuitry to provide 2 hydraulic circuits and 1 pneumatic circuit through the table assembly to the bottom of that table to integrate to a coupler on the bottom of your fixture. As an option, we'll offer our fixture hydraulic unit that's designed and sized for use with that 2 hydraulic, 1 pneumatic offering. A bit more compact than the picture that you see over here, but again, under development right now. Automatic doors on the front of the machine will also be offered as an option. Again, marrying that machine up to the robotics. We need a way for the robot to get access to the machine. Auto doors offered as an option. As well as the robot interface, the ability for that robot control or overall cell control to talk to the machine, to issue commands to the machine, for instance, unclamp the fixture, open the doors, things of that nature, done through that optional robot interface. And then a variety of chucks from both Aroa and 3R for customers who elect to use that type of automation. Availability, new machine on the market for us. This machine debuted at the recent JIMTOF show in Japan in late 2022. The machines are entering the production pipeline right now. We have multiple machines on order at Makino Mason covering North and South America for our stock, for delivery to customers, but also for installation in our showroom. So on order right now in the build cycle, scheduled for arrival at the port of entry October of 2023. So just in summary, key technologies of the machine: stacked axis design, very compact footprint, high level of rigidity. That's reflected in the true 3-point leveling, again, building that rigidity into the base casting. Direct drive motors for the A and the B axis, the rotary axis, very fast movement. 20,000 RPM spindle with high acceleration, deceleration capability. Again, recall 0 to 20,000 in 0.8 of a second. Through spindle coolant is standard on the machine, and it comes standard with our Pro 6 control with super geometrical intelligence for those tight tolerance contour machining areas of your production process, as well as collision safeguard. So small part machining without compromise. So thank you very much. We appreciate you attending today's event. We're going to turn this over now to questions, and I'll jump onto the computer. We'll take a look at the questions that have come in and answer those. Thank you for your attention, and we look forward to talking with you again here shortly.
Okay, a couple of questions have come in. Let me address those. First question that's come in, what is the shank between the spindle and the tool? The question was, is it CAT 40, is it HSK 50? In this particular case for this machine, because again, one of our driving design ideas was to be able to keep that spindle very compact, get it very close to the work interface. We elected to go with HSK A40. So it's an A form of the HSK, 40 millimeter contact area between the tool holder and the spindle face. Very rigid, especially when you look at other machines kind of in the same category, are going to tend to be either BT30 or CAT 30. The HSK A40 interface is quite a bit more rigid. The second question that has come in, is a detailed spec document on this machine available? And yes, it is. You can contact your Makino sales representative, and we have just posted it for their ability to grab it, to download it off of our Files Anywhere platform, and soon it will also be posted to our sales and marketing toolkit. So again, contact your Makino sales rep, and they'll be able to get you a copy of that detailed spec document very, very quickly. So again, thank you everybody for attending today's event. We look forward to more questions coming in. One of the things that we will do is we'll follow up with everybody who registered today. And if you're able to join us live, great. We'll still get you a follow-up. get you a link to be able to watch this again in its entirety, or if you'd like to pass it on to counterparts of yours in your company, please feel free to do so. Or if you weren't able to join us live, this will give you the ability then to see this broadcast. So we appreciate your attendance, and we'll talk with you again soon. Thank you.